Alright, so today I want to give you kind of an update as far as what I have going on here in my reptile room breeding ball pythons. I'm actually kind of moving out of one breeding season, moving into the very beginning of another breeding season. It's actually the middle of September right now, and believe it or not, in one more month, the middle of October, I start pairing up my males and my females again for the next breeding season. I can't believe it's gone by so fast. And this year, I actually produced 99 hatchlings, almost 100 hatchlings. 14 of my females laid eggs, which is pretty incredible. And I'd say pretty much the number one thing that I'm working on most days here in my reptile room is dealing with these hatchlings. And let me tell you, if you actually have 100 hatchlings, I feed these usually once or twice a week, at least once a week. So you're looking at 100 rodents every single week just to feed these hatchlings. And usually I get anywhere from 8 to 10 rodents in my hatchlings before I post them up on Morphmarket and ship them out. So you're looking at like 1,000 rodents to feed these hatchlings before you ship them out over on Morphmarket, which is pretty incredible. So it's not only the food, but you have to go through and spot clean, make sure they have the water, and then you have to go through and take the pictures, post them on Morphmarket, and then you have to deal with all the customer questions. There's a lot of people that just are kind of kicking tires over on Morphmarket, just kind of thinking about it, asking questions. So that can be really time consuming too. I'd say that takes up most of my time right now. As a matter of fact, pretty much on Morphmarket, I've gotten to the point where I'll post like 10 or 15 snakes at a time, because last year I was posting like 30 or 40 or 50 over on Morphmarket, and I get so many questions. I just get so overloaded in a certain week with everything else that I have going on here in my collection. And another thing I wanted to show you is I go through these hatchlings and sell them over on Morphmarket. I've been cleaning out the tubs and I've been printing out new feeding cards. So if you haven't seen my feeding cards, I can show you them. They're essentially, they go right on the front of the tub here with Velcro. It's pretty awesome. I've had a lot of people ask me about my feeding cards. These are fantastic, if you can get that in focus there. And I just kind of randomly made this up. I actually started kind of with like a 3-ring binder, and it was like recording all the different feeding from all the different snakes. Let me tell you, I was going through that. It was maddening trying to go through a 3-ring binder, trying to figure out if one snake has eaten enough rodents. And I finally came up with these feeding cards. And essentially what it is, it's just a blue 3x5 index card that I found over on Amazon. And then I printed out this spread. It's actually an Excel spreadsheet that I made up, and I printed these out. And then what I did is I went over to Amazon and found these, it's like a baseball card holder, a 3x5 baseball card protector. And then they just slide right in and out. And then I put a little piece of tape so you can actually grab onto the card with a Scotch tape, because otherwise it kind of gets lost in the card. And then the back, I just put a little piece of Velcro right on the back. And the thing with the Velcro, you want to make sure you put all the hooks on your cards and then all the fuzzy parts on your tub. So you're not looking, all right, which card has the hooks? You know, if you kind of mix up your cards and you take them all off, clean the tubs or something like that. So these are really fantastic. So you can actually go through every single week. It has 3 little boxes, and you can feed them up to 3 times a week and just put a little X right on the box. And then just at a glance, you can actually see what's going on with that snake as far as feeding through the whole year. And what I can actually do is I can actually look over my whole collection, and just at a glance, I can see, hey, that snake right there hasn't eaten for a couple months. So then you really want to focus on trying to get that snake to eat using different techniques. And let me tell you, it's really helped my collection of these feeding cards. So I'll actually put a link underneath the video with the cards, the 3x5 cards and the holders. As a matter of fact, I'll actually put a link to download this spreadsheet so you can print out your own cards. And then I'll give you a link to the Velcro too. But these are really fantastic. They just go right on there. It's really nice. And you don't even have to take them off. You just kind of slide it out a little bit, put the mark on there, and then slide it back. Those are pretty awesome. So I'm working on putting new feeding cards as I sell my hatchlings. The other thing besides the hatchlings that I'm kind of working on is trying to get my females up to weight. And some of my females have laid pretty late. So I have some females that still haven't eaten anything. I think I might have to give some of my females the next year off because of how late they laid. Some of them have gone back on food, but right now I'm just really trying hard to get some of those breeder females back on food. And a lot of people, there's some tricks you can use to kind of snap them out of it. I've seen some people where they'll change all the substrate. They'll actually take the female out and kind of give her a bath and kind of, you know, get all the old smell of all the eggs off the female to get her back on food. I've actually seen, probably the thing that works for me the best is to take a full-size live adult mouse and use that as a feeder. If you don't have a really big ball python, sometimes you can do a mouse. Sometimes you can do like a live African soft fur, and then just one mouse, usually like a live mouse. It's like, live mice are like candy to ball pythons, and they'll eat it almost every single time. And then following up after that, you can actually try a frozen thawed rat and switch back over to rat. Sometimes that'll get them back on food, and sometimes they just refuse to eat for months and months, and it can be really frustrating. So that's kind of the thing that I'm working on too, is I'm kind of dealing with all these hatchlings, and right now I'm trying to go through, not only am I feeding, like, I think I've sold like 30 hatchlings right now, so I have 70 hatchlings that I'm feeding every single week, and then I'm actually trying to feed my females at the same time. So let me tell you, it takes a lot of rodents, it takes a lot of time to kind of go through and feed them all, thaw out all the rodents. The other thing is if you're breeding your own rodents, which I think you pretty much have to at least breed mice, so you have some live mouse hoppers for some of these hatchlings as a first meal. You really have to organize your mice as far as breeding them during this kind of part of the year right now where you have a lot of live mouse hoppers to feed your hatchlings their first meals. And then in the off season, you have to organize to where you can take a lot of those mice and then put them in the freezer and use them as a frozen thaw during the off season. So you can come up with 1,000 plus rodents that you need for all the hatchlings during this time of the year, which is kind of crazy. So you have all that going on with all the rodents, with the hatchlings, and then with all the females. And then on top of all that, another thing you have to do is you have to plan the next breeding season. So I actually have all my females and males in a spreadsheet, and I kind of look back, all right, what have I paired up in the past? What did I pair up this year? And what do I want to pair up that's a little bit different moving into the next season? So that's the other thing you have to think about. And usually I'll start that about this time of the year, trying to figure out. As a matter of fact, usually I started about a month earlier trying to figure out what to pair up. I should already have kind of an idea by now as far as what I'm going to pair up with what moving into the next season. So I'll have to kind of take a look at that. The other thing you have to also look at is your holdbacks from the following years. So if you have any male holdbacks or female holdbacks, you kind of have to look at the age and the weight of those as far as if you're going to put them into your rotation the next year. So with your females, I'd say it usually takes about 2 to 3 years. I think about 3 years before I start breeding my females. And with the males, when I'm growing out my males, some of my holdbacks, I'll wait at least 2 years on my males before I put them in my rotation. So right now, it looks like this year, I'll probably put some of my scaleless head females into my breeding, which is pretty exciting. I actually have 2 Lemon Blast females, which are pastel pinstripes, and with the scaleless head. And then I actually have another male scaleless head with the lesser gene in it. So I'll have the lesser, the pastel, and the pinstripe, and I could hit the totally scaleless this year. So that's kind of one of the things that I'm working on. And then next year, I actually have some of my triple hets maturing. So every year you kind of keep increasing the quality of your collection if you keep holding back some of the kind of the cream of the crop of what you produced before. So you keep moving some of this into the rotation, and then you have to figure, at some point you have to figure out what you're going to sell to kind of free up the rack space, or if you want to expand, that's another thing you have to think about. So I have all these things to think about, and it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of rodents. And let me tell you, it can be a full-time job, especially this time of the year. And let me tell you, this time of the year, it seems like it's really busy. And then the least busy time of the year is when you're actually breeding the males and females. And once the females start moving into like an ovulation, that is pretty much the easiest. It's almost no work at all because most of them go off of food as they're developing eggs. And then you pretty much have sold all your hatchlings. So you don't have many hatchlings, just a few holdbacks that you're kind of feeding. And then usually with your rodents, what I do is I'll kind of pare down my rodents, so I'm not breeding a whole bunch of rodents during the off season. So it's a really easy time of the year where there's almost no work. Let me tell you, it goes from like really crazy right now. We have all this stuff going on to where it's almost no work at all during when the females start building the eggs. I'd say that is probably the easiest time of the year. So I just thought I'd kind of give you kind of some of my insights as far as what I have going on here in my reptile room. And some of you guys just getting into the ball python breeding season, let me tell you, things change when you start producing 100 plus hatchlings. Things can get pretty interesting really quick. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully you got some insights as far as what I'm going through here in my reptile room. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.